Counselor Prime Zereth watched the human delegation pack their belongings with what she had learned to recognize as characteristic efficiency. Ambassador Sarah Chen moved through the process with clinical precision, her staff dismantling their offices in the Galactic Council chambers with the same methodical approach that had made humans both invaluable and apparently utterly disposable. "This is quite unnecessary," Zereth said, her crystalline voice carrying the harmonic undertones that indicated diplomatic concern among her species. The vote was merely procedural. "Your species' contributions to the Council are appreciated." Chen paused in her packing, fixing the towering Altarian with a steady gaze. "Appreciated enough to grant us full voting rights after 30 years of provisional membership. Appreciated enough to allow human colonies the same protections afforded to other Council worlds." Zereth's crystalline features shifted in what might have been embarrassment. "The Council operates on consensus. Change takes time when it involves 17 different species with varying evolutionary and cultural backgrounds. 30 years, Counselor Prime. An entire human generation has grown up believing they were part of something larger." Chen sealed the last container with a decisive snap. "Apparently, we were wrong." The vote had been 12-4, with one abstention, denying humanity's petition for full Council membership. The reasoning had been predictably bureaucratic. Humans were too young as a spacefaring species, their diplomatic traditions insufficiently established, their territorial claims too expansive for their current technological capabilities. What the Council hadn't said, but Chen understood perfectly, was that the established powers preferred humanity in its current role, enthusiastic junior partners who provided valuable services without the inconvenience of equal representation. "Where will you go?" Zereth asked, genuine curiosity coloring her harmonics. "Home," Chen replied simply. "Earth has been quite patient while we've been playing galactic politics. Time to focus on our own priorities." 3 days after the human withdrawal, the first crisis began in the Vega sector. The Hegemony Mining Consortium and the Crystalline Collective had been locked in a territorial dispute over mineral rights in the asteroid fields for over 2 standard years. Both sides had legitimate claims under different interpretations of Council law, and both had been gradually escalating their positioning, while lawyers argued jurisdiction. Traditionally, such disputes were mediated through the Council's neutral arbitration process. What most Council members had never consciously realized was that human negotiators had been instrumental in resolving 847 such conflicts over the past 3 decades, not through any formal role, but through their peculiar talent for finding compromise solutions that left both parties feeling they had gained something. Without human mediators suggesting creative alternatives, the Vega sector dispute defaulted to the Council's formal arbitration protocols. The Altarian jurists ruled in favor of the hegemony based on strict legal precedent. The Crystalline Collective, feeling betrayed by what they saw as species favoritism, withdrew from the mining sector entirely and imposed trade sanctions on all hegemony worlds. The economic ripple effects began immediately. Trade route coordinator Blixnath of the Ferox Mercantile Union stared at his logistics displays in growing panic. The collapse of hegemony collective trade agreements had created a cascade failure in shipping schedules that stretched across 6 sectors. Cargo ships were stranded in ports, supply chains were backing up, and time-sensitive deliveries were failing throughout the galactic core regions. For 30 years, human logistics coordinators had served as neutral intermediaries in interspecies trade disputes, their species' reputation for fairness, making them ideal arbitrators when cargo manifests, shipping insurance, and customs regulations conflicted between different planetary systems. Without them, the galaxy's trade networks grown complex and interdependent during 3 decades of relative peace began to snarl into gridlock. The second major crisis erupted in the Outer Rim territories just 1 week later. The Zephyrian Protectorate and the unified Calathi systems had maintained an uneasy peace over the disputed Proxima clusters through a series of carefully negotiated patrol schedules and territorial boundaries. The agreement had required constant fine-tuning as shipping traffic evolved, and new colonies were established, adjustments that had always been handled through informal human diplomatic channels. Without human intermediaries to smooth over minor violations and misunderstandings, a routine Zephyrian patrol crossing into disputed space sparked a diplomatic incident that rapidly escalated into the first naval engagement seen in the galaxy for over a decade. Council emergency sessions were called daily as crisis after crisis erupted across known space. Systems that had operated smoothly for decades suddenly found themselves paralyzed by bureaucratic deadlock, territorial disputes, and trade wars. Counselor Prime Xereth found herself working 18-hour days just to maintain basic governmental functions as she finally began to understand what humanity had actually provided to the galactic community. It wasn't their advanced technology. Dozens of species had superior engineering capabilities. It wasn't their military might. Several council members fielded more powerful fleets. It wasn't even their economic contributions, though human trade networks had grown impressively over 3 decades. What humans had provided was something far more subtle and far more essential. They had served as neutral ground between species whose evolutionary and cultural differences made direct cooperation nearly impossible. Humans were the species that other species trusted to be fair. Their relative youth meant they had no ancient grudges or territorial ambitions that conflicted with established powers. Their cultural emphasis on individual merit over species loyalty made them ideal mediators. Their technological adaptability allowed them to work within any civilization's systems and protocols. For 30 years, humans had been the galaxy's diplomatic lubricant, the neutral third party that allowed ancient enemies to work together, the innovative problem solvers who found creative alternatives to zero-sum conflicts. And now they were gone. The final straw came 6 weeks after the human withdrawal. The Council's primary communications network, a complex web of quantum entanglement, relays maintained by cooperative agreements between multiple species, began experiencing cascading failures as the various parties could no longer coordinate maintenance schedules without neutral human oversight. When the quantum relay network collapsed, taking with it real-time communication between most Council worlds, Xereth finally understood the magnitude of their mistake. The emergency session was held via old-fashioned subspace radio, with transmission delays, making coherent discussion nearly impossible. But the message was clear. The galactic community was fragmenting without the diplomatic framework that humans had quietly maintained for 3 decades. "We need them back," declared Admiral Threxavol of the Corthanian Defense Fleet, his words taking nearly 4 minutes to reach the other Council members. "The galaxy doesn't work without neutral mediators." "They won't return to the same arrangement," Xereth admitted reluctantly. "If we want human participation, it will have to be as full equals." The vote was unanimous, 16-0 with 1 abstention. The message to Earth was simple. Emergency Council Resolution 2847. The Terran Federation is hereby granted full Council membership with immediate effect. Please come home. The galaxy needs you. Chen's response was equally direct. We'll consider it. Terms to be negotiated. For the first time in Council history, the established powers would be negotiating from a position of weakness with the species they had dismissed as junior partners. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson about the difference between being powerful and being essential.